on, everybody? Welcome to the aXpire podcast. I am Milan, the Chief Marketing Officer of aXpire, and I have here with me Matthew Markham, who's the Chief Operating Officer. Today, we're just going to run through some questions for the community, our thoughts on what we're doing at aXpire, what the general sentiment of the crypto community is. And it's just me and Matt having a discussion that you guys hopefully are going to enjoy. So we're going to kick it off. The first question that I wanted to chuck through to Matt is, well, what are we working on right now? You want to tell the community about some of the exciting things that are happening?
Yeah, thanks, Milan. So there's a lot going on. Obviously, as everyone can see, I think the latest two things that we saw were the ambassador program, which is essentially a way to engage the 7,000 plus folks we have in the community to help build out the software platforms that we have, to engage with customers, to find a way to reward them for the loyalty that they've given us so far. You know, people have connections. I think the biggest thing in this decentralized economy is to engage people in a decentralized way. So we're trying to basically have this network effect of people reach out to their relationships and other introductions that they can make, all of which would help us and help them. So trying to do things together is key. The next piece of that is really the aXpire Prime program, and that's a little bit more focused on aXpire, the token itself. And what that is essentially encouraging people to lock up their tokens in exchange for certain benefits every week, sort of like a loyalty program, the same way you think about Amazon Prime. In return for locking their tokens up, they get access to these competitions, which are every week, and which would in total give us about 520,000 aXpire given out throughout the year in the form of 10,000 every single week. We're going to give them exclusive content, early access to products, early access to news on what we're doing with exchanges, and early access to general developments that should see us all do relatively well in the future. So those are the two big areas probably that we've done recently, aXpire Prime and the Ambassador Program, both of which are kind of designed to engage the decentralized community so that we can all do well if any of these programs work out. So Prime has got up to a great start. We've got some large hodlers already in, people 3 to 5 million plus already signed up for that full amount. A lot of people at the $200,000 to $500,000 range as well, which is fantastic. You're basically verified users for us or loyal users for us. We'll all do well, essentially, if we can see the value of this token become something of or somewhat of a scarce resource. So as we drive new products and as we drive other programs like that along, we should all see aXpire do fairly well. In terms of where we're going on the product side of things, so obviously, you know, Matchbox is still in beta. We've got a few new functions and features coming out, all of which are designed to kind of increase adoption, and that's the main focus going forward. We'll get into that a little bit more at the time of the announcement, but everything around Matchbox and all the software is really around the theme of how can we get more people actively using this. So think along the lines of aXpire Prime members getting better access to different features, think along the lines of more cryptocurrencies being available on the site, think along the lines of partnerships with more groups who are using freelancing cryptocurrency software, who are looking to us actually as one of the best in breed or best in class softwares out there for this specific or particular thing, and they're looking to post their jobs on our site. So there's a few updates on that side of things to come in early February, which is probably around the time we're going to look to start doing a full launch of Matchbox, and that's going to include some new features as well as new promotions. On the resolver side, I think we're looking a little bit more to incorporate a token, not only as a licensing fee, but down the line, potentially using the token as a way to track invoices as an additional security protocol. So we have 18 decimal places, which translates to about 9 digits in a binary coding system. If I was to send someone a certain configuration of aXpire tokens, that would correspond essentially to an invoice being sent from one type of a department to another, all of which would back up the blockchain-based database that we have involved in that system. So the enterprise side of things is slower. It's a gradual sales cycle. It's 6 to 9 months. Adoption of blockchain is something we're working on as a gradual process with them. So this is something we'll probably start with the existing customers and then roll it out to new customers as they sign on.
Beautiful.
We've recently actually launched a commission-only salesperson platform or program along those lines, and we're working in partnership with a group called Commission Crowd to engage commission-only salespeople, as well as the ambassador program. So all of this is really designed to leverage people's relationships. That's the biggest thing. With blockchain and with all our software, it's just getting in the door so you can show people how good it is. On the Coinbox side of things, right now it's essentially a gateway / STO or ICO launch platform. What we're looking to do with that is really add a front-end marketplace so that it's accessible to people other than just a cryptocurrency platform. We want to start to emphasize that all of this software is supposed to be deemed adoptable. So as you'll see in the aXpire.io website, the tagline is adoptable blockchain infrastructure. So with something like Coinbox, we're looking to add on a marketplace. Think shares post, think maybe a more sophisticated version of Kickstarter or Realty shares, for example. But the whole idea is STO and ICO tokens available in a marketplace format pretty much to everyone. So kind of democratizing investing. All of that's to go towards the general theme of having adoptable blockchain infrastructure.
Perfect.
So that's what I would say are the main updates on the different softwares. aXpire Prime and the Ambassador Program are big updates. I may know what your next question is, but I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, awesome. I definitely want to touch on that. And I think, the idea of having the ambassador program, the idea of having commission-only sales agents is that, there is a sense of, community is what we're trying to bring about here, for people to be able to contribute, for people to, feel like they're making an impact with the aXpire. And we're really excited to have already some people involved with this. And we're pretty excited at, what's going to happen in Q1 as a result of these new initiatives that we're launching. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, Matt, is, what is the direction of aXpire over the next year? More so Q1 and then progressively going on to Q4. What do you feel, is our sort of vision and for the rest of the year? Where could we imagine or where would we want aXpire to be within, the next 12 months?
Yeah, so I think where we'd want it to be has many facets to it. A key facet is exchanges, which I realize everyone's been talking about. We have. I can say on record we have probably 3 of the top 10 as late stage discussions. A few of which you'll probably get to know in the first half of the year. The rest may take longer, and probably the ones that you can imagine. And ultimately, if we have to pay a listing fee, a large listing fee, it's something we consider and seriously take a look at. But we want to try a lot of first line efforts to try and leverage or build a more substantial relationship with the exchange and put that listing fee to the side. So build more of a partnership relationship with them, offer them either an integration into our software or some form of joint marketing platform where everyone involved benefits. I think with exchanges, and they're starting to do this on their own now as well, you're seeing a move towards how do we all benefit rather than a community or a project just funding that exchange as business. So a listing fee is a very one-sided transaction. It's us as the customer and them as the vendor. We're looking to make it more of a partnership discussion, which helps us from the listing fee perspective. It helps us from the relationship perspective, and it also helps all the community in that we're trying to be good stewards of capital, more or less. So exchanges are one big piece where we could see aXpire land itself in the next 6 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. We're going to also try and look at how do we increase the incentives for people to really find utility in this token. So different ways to use it within the existing software. I talked about Resolver there a little bit. Within Matchbox, if you're using aXpire specifically and you're an aXpire Prime member, you'll get additional benefits. So things like that, where there's increased utility. The HODL functions, especially the aXpire Prime HODL function, is one intended to increase the value over time of aXpire. That will kind of come as one piece of increasing value. The other piece will be driving new demand for products through having better products and more features and updates that come over time. Mm-hmm. And then I'd say another thing that we're looking to do with this token is really see a lot more use where we tend to talk about it and use it the most, which is actually on Telegram and a lot of social media applications. So I'm not sure if it's officially something we've got into in a lot of detail yet, but we're looking to work with Parjar, our tipping bot partner, a lot more closely to encourage something in the near future, which will be called social hodling. So we'll essentially allow people to hodl their token directly in Telegram and other social media applications and have more or less a verified list of people visible in that way. So I could call a function that would show us all the hodlers in the aXpire Telegram and we'd kick everyone else off. No, I'm just
I love it. It's so innovative, and obviously social media is it's where 90% of people spend their time. So to actually capitalize off the back of that, have a robust partner in place, it's all going to be great for the community. It's going to be great for the aXpire token. And on the topic of tokens, one of the things that I wanted to touch on is, what would you say, Matt, are some of the potential future use cases for the token?
Yeah, so some of the potential use cases, I mean, aXpire Prime is a good example of a loyalty program that we've started to roll out with aXpire. I think you're going to see more features and functions come out of that as a result of people being willing to hold tokens. If that's just fee benefits on the software, that's great. I think airdrops, as we start to implement Coinbox in a more serious fashion, are going to be a bigger and bigger incentive to actually hodl and use the token.
Mm-hmm.
To talk about use outside of just hodling, I think the license fees is one that's already in place with a burn. A future use case I'd like to see, and it's something we're looking to do with Coinbox, is really having a wide range of cryptocurrencies, but having a defined advantage for using aXpire. That's probably going to be lower fees. That's probably going to take the form of a bonus of the token that you're buying in particular. So you could use Bitcoin or ETH, and that's kind of encouraging adoption. But we'd want to offer people who are using aXpire to buy into an STO or ICO an incentive both in the tokens they're buying and also the fees they're paying. So kind of a bonus and discount in terms of the fees. So that's another use case there. I think with Resolver, it's a case of really what is the customer willing to experiment with. And we're very early days in enterprise blockchain as a whole. So that's something we're going to keep pushing the boundaries on. Even having a blockchain database is something that's relatively quote unquote revolutionary for any business right now, but particularly for asset managers who are very much regulated. So we're pushing for them to use the token in a more in-app way rather than just as a licensing fee. So that's probably the other core use. Things down the line, something I've seen actually work quite well, and something I'm looking at as a way to decide new features and maybe also decide who gets certain benefits, if it's in the form of a competition that we do and giveaways, or if it's in the form of ideas that come on the platform. So maybe we hold a survey asking, what's the best new feature for Matchbox, do you think, for example? What's the best new coin or something, or STO to list on Coinbox? We could have external votes using aXpire, much in the same way that exchanges like Bitfinex, ETHFinex, Binance, OKX, a lot of exchanges do that as a voting mechanism. I think something like that for aXpire would make a lot of sense, not only for Coinbox, where it's more of an analogy to an exchange use case, but also for things like what are the best ideas that have come to us and how can we reward people for providing those ideas, and then the community vote on that using their aXpire. So something like that would use up aXpire, and we'd probably take that if it was just a community-based vote or something like that and burn it so it benefits everyone. We'd find a way to make sure it benefits everyone. The whole thing, to your point, was it's about building community.
Perfect. And interestingly, on the topic of the community, one of the things that I wanted to touch on is right now there is a lot of exciting things happening within the software development space, especially within aXpire. What would you say is the vision for the future of some of the software development side of things that we're working on?
Yeah, so I think we're definitely taking into account and touching on aXpire in the same breath there.
Yeah.
What are the new visions for tokens in this space in terms of how that fits into software and software development? A big thing there is, how does a token fit into the new future where there could be a security token involved or some sort of focus on that? In Coinbox, for example, there is a future where we potentially consider looking at improving or converting our token onto a new protocol, or converting it into a new sort of token, not necessarily a security out the gate, but we may look at that down the line. So something along those lines would be interesting. And in terms of what are the products and what are the product direction themes that we're looking at, I would say, again, it's still adoptable blockchain infrastructure, but the core areas are really making this abstracted and usable for the average person. So things like Matchbox, Coinbox, potentially a payment solution that we are contemplating releasing to the public, although it's still being worked on and tested. We'd like to basically abstract as much of the blockchain aspects of this as we can to make it as user-friendly as possible. So with Coinbox, I kind of mentioned we're adding a front end that's more of a marketplace of all the ICOs and STOs that are available. I think in an ideal world, you'd basically be able to click on whatever ICO or STO you'd want, see the details of it, how it's traded, and we're basically going to work with a partner on the security token exchange side of things, or even the utility token exchange side of things. Buy it with a bonus and discount for aXpire, but I'd like it to be the case that you wouldn't even have to touch a hexadecimal or QR code in your entire experience. So it feels the same way as trading a cryptocurrency on Robinhood or something like that, where it's very new age and applicable to everyone, not just the small fraction of the population that are aware of how to use cryptocurrency. There's something like 30 million wallets in the cryptocurrency space. And when you look at that as a fraction of the US, assuming all those wallets are active, which we all know they're not,
Yeah.
assuming they are, that's 10% of the US and
Mhm.
a much smaller fraction of the world. I think the reality is closer to 3% or less of people who actually know how to handle this sort of technology. And I would wager even lower for those who actively use it and are sophisticated. So I'd want something in all of our software that would eventually mean we can move past this QR code, hexadecimal address, sending from one wallet to another kind of back and forth. That really puts a lot of stress and friction on the user
Yeah.
when they're just trying to complete a pretty standard transaction. So right now, admittedly, in a lot of ways, the UI UX is needing an improvement to even reach the level of standard software outside of blockchain today.
Yeah.
That's not just for us, that's for everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
But I think we're seeing a lot of that infrastructure start to come out. And we can share some features that we think are examples of that in the near future, but mainly just getting rid of friction as it relates to wallets and having to copy and paste addresses. That is a thing of the past, I think, and I don't think we'll be stuck in this paradigm for very long. So all of our software looks to become more adoptable. That's a key. That's one of the 3 words in that. So no more back and forths with addresses, and hopefully an improvement to MetaMask. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. I said it's so interesting because that actually brings us on to our next topic that I wanted to discuss with you, and that is the general crypto sentiment, the general market, the space right now. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. From my perspective, it's really interesting because there was a mass of adopters. Sort of, I guess this time last year is when the market roughly crashed, and everyone was sort of hoping across Q1 and Q2 that the market would pick up. There was a lot of expectations that in December it would pick up in the same way that it did, I believe, in 2016, and actually, that the markets would increase, but it didn't. And I think it's it's a good and bad thing. It's a bad thing because it wasn't according to expectations, but it's a good thing because what it did is weed out all the people that were just in it for the money, the scams. It was getting to a point where it was uncontrollable. All over Twitter, all over Reddit, there was all these like weird scams out there. These YouTubers promoting just crazy tokens because they were getting paid to do it, and then they were paying for views and paying for subscribers, and the entire sentiment of the market became very fake. What we're seeing now is that the market's actually improving, and I guess people are becoming a lot more in tune with it and actually starting to see the value. There's starting to become some real use cases for the tokens and that products. And I think over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, what's going to happen is that the companies that are serious about what they're doing in the blockchain and crypto space are going to grow substantially. And I think the hodlers and the people that believe in the tokens are going to benefit because the ones that they're backing, such as Resolver, such as Matchbox, the things that actually have genuine real use cases are going to be a game changer. So that's how I see the market going. I mean, what are your thoughts on the space?
Yeah, so my background was actually in investing before this, and unfortunately, the traditional financial world in the form of investment banking and other things. So I'm a reform banker, but I have to say, with things like that, you get an investor's mindset, and I've kind of approached this space with a similar thought, with the idea that this is a VC's mindset or a long-term holder's mindset or hodler's mindset, essentially, even though we want to see adoption now, and to your point, we are seeing adoption slowly and surely. Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of something that I've seen with a partner of ours called Coin Payments, and they built their platform in 2013, and it really wasn't a platform to speak of until maybe 2018, 2019. I mean, they did great work, but really it was a 5-year process just to have cryptocurrencies accepted as a payment on a very basic level. And even now, that's a small fraction of the world, but it's going from like 0.0 something to 3% of websites online right now. And they're a big part of that. They're probably one of the leading players. So the point there is I see a lot of our software as being the coin payments in 2013, especially with Matchbox and Coinbox, where it's such a new concept that it's going to take a good 3 to 5 years to become institutional in the sense that there'd be mass adoption in terms of the way we know it today. So I think something like that is going to take a while to play out. Yeah. But I think we've positioned ourselves nicely to enjoy the ride on the way up. And the only people who are going to be winning those types of races or at the forefront in the 5-year mark, in the 3-year mark, however soon out from today it takes to actually reach mass adoption, those people would be rewarded for holding on along the way. because I think by the time it's happened, it's too late to get involved. You're already going to be in the long tail of other people who are trying to copycat. And the real thing that will win in this space in the next 3 to 5 years is network effects and community. So having the strongest community, having the strongest network effect is something that's not necessarily proprietary, but just has scale and has a proven platform that's worked time and again for whatever its use case is. So adoptable blockchain infrastructure with freelancing in the case of Matchbox, or with ICOs and STOs in the case of Coinbox, will take some time to get fully flushed out. But I think the sentiment in 2019, even though it's just a one-digit difference and a man-made construct completely, I feel like having 2018 gone, to your point, and having washed away a lot of the folks who were here for a quick dime, has improved the sentiment. Even though Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies have still been very volatile, and there's no guarantee of where it's moving in the short term. I think in the long term, we all understand that this story is played out before in many different ways within blockchain and outside of blockchain. And the real way to win is to approach it with a long-term investor's mindset. I use venture capital, but just approach it as someone who's willing to see something grow for 3 to 5 years. That's something that we've seen a lot more people come into as a result of the 2017 washout, to your point. So I think while sentiment is still muted in the short term in terms of people being worried about prices and message boards, I think we're seeing a lot more people, and this is a relative term, but we're seeing a lot more people starting to hodl and look at this space as a hodling space. You're going to need to be here for 3 to 5 years. And you'll enjoy the ride on the way up. If you can just turn the message boards off, or if you can at least come in with a mindset that I'm here for the long haul, you're going to be the coin payments equivalent, or I hope and plan to have us as the coin payments equivalent for what we're doing in the freelancing and ICO STO space and the spend management space, of course, with Resolver. It's going to be a long game. You know, there's no short wins, unfortunately, other than maybe the exchanges and other use cases that we can get for aXpire, which are going to be plentiful. But I think to keep in mind, you're going to be here for 3 to 5 years to really see the massive upswing that will result in and because of mass adoption.
Totally. And, you know, on one hand, we have the mass adoptions of tokens that have real world use cases, actual utility in the industry. And on the other hand, like you said, Matt, there's going to be mass adoption in the sense that right now it's so complicated to get involved within the Bitcoin space with all these random wallets. It's not very easy. There's a lot of friction. I think that process is going to be ironed out and a lot more seamless. So with actual token utility increasing and with mass adoption and ease increasing in the sense that friction will be a lot more lower and barriers to entry will be a lot more lower for people. In 3 to 5 years, I feel like both of those things are going to connect, and that's when it's really going to take off. But on that note, Matt, you know, we've been speaking for about 25 minutes, so I thought, you know, I think we've passed a great message on to the team. There's a lot of things coming in 2019 for aXpire. I'm super stoked about the future, and just wondering if you have any closing comments.
Closing comments is massive thank you to the community. 2018 was rough on everyone, but the support we've received has been fantastic. Those who continue to support and those who are willing to weather the long haul ride, we promise we'll do right by you, and we'll do well if we do well by each other. So with that, thanks, and hope to do another one of these pretty soon. Thanks, Milan.
Awesome, guys. Take care. Peace. Bye-bye.
Thank you.